Welcome to our Griffin Martial Arts Taekwondo Eye of the Hurricane Griffcast of Tales of the Empty-Handed Masters. We're going to do a reading today for children. I'm your host, Master Griffin of Griffin Martial Arts. Check us out at www.mastergriffin.com. Our story today is called Eyes of the Hurricane. The night was warm. The moon had just passed behind a cloud, temporarily blocking out the light. The student could feel the hair stand on the back of his neck and goosebumps rise on his skin. His eyes were straining to see into the dark forest. The student felt that something or someone was waiting to attack him. As the night grew darker, the crickets became strangely quiet. His heart was pumping hard and his hands were sweating. Thoughts raced through his head. Should I run or should I stop and fight? Where will the attack come from? The student came to the edge of a small clearing, a meadow that sloped down to a river. He remembered his teacher saying, "To learn about yourself is the most important thing. You will be tested constantly. You will need all of your martial arts skills, and especially, you will need to understand the fundamental meaning of all martial arts, empty self. Understand this, and you will live in the eye of the hurricane, where no one can harm you." The cloud moved past, and the moon shone brightly, casting shadows everywhere. The student noticed two swift shadows moving across the meadow to the darkness of the tall pine trees way beyond. Then he heard a terrifying shout, "Get up!" Then silence. There was movement among the trees and along the border of the meadow. He was sure that something was coming towards him. His muscles became tense, and he felt dizzy. The student felt the importance of his test. He was caught up in a whirlwind of thought and emotions. He wanted to charge out and challenge the attackers quickly, openly, in the meadow. Simultaneously, he wanted to flee back to camp. Be silent. Watch your thoughts. See how they jumped around like a monkey. See how they cloud your mind and confuse you. He remembered these words from the chief instructor, offered as a preparation for this test. Your thoughts are like ripples on a still pond. You cannot act clearly when your mind is so active. Running this way, running that way. Focus on your breathing. Count your breaths. Calm the mind and stop. Look and listen. Then focus outwardly on what's all around you. The student closed his eyes and felt how tired they were from straining to see in the darkness. His breathing was rapid and short. Coming from his chest, he took a deep breath and pushed the air down into his hara, or the lower belly. 1, 2, 3. Long, deep breaths. He slowly counted them. 1, 2, 3, while remaining alert to the sounds of the forest. The student noticed that he was more alert with his eyes closed than when he had his eyes open. Breathing deeply into his belly, his mind slowly calmed, his muscles relaxed, and the night took on a friendlier feeling. Standing alone in the darkness, following his breathing, listening to the smallest sounds around him, he felt calm, still, like it must be in the eye of a hurricane. He could smell pine trees and dew on the ground. He could feel cool air on his skin. The darkness was no longer an enemy. It embraced him. The student slowly raised his bamboo sword and assumed a ready stance, quietly, waiting for whatever should happen. There was no fear, no straining, no rushing thought. He opened his eyes slowly. The full moon shone brightly and equally on everything in its path. The river moved slowly, without interruption, silver moonlight dancing upon the water. His body was alert and ready. No thoughts of attack or defense, just stillness, a quietness in the forest. With arms raised above his head, the student met his attackers. Both of them emerged from the trees with bamboo swords above their head. Swiftly, they rushed at him from front sides and the back sides. Then, suddenly, they stopped. And, for what seemed like forever, three stood there with their swords raised above their heads, as naturally as pine trees with branches reaching up to the light of the moon. No effort, an endless moment out of time. Then, as a leaf falls from a tree, the teachers lowered their swords and bowed toward their student. The student's sword lowered like a great wave subsiding, and he too bowed. In silence, they all knew that the test was over. There were no